And then Neuralink.
Yeah. Neuralink and that other robotic shit that do menial jobs, basically take jobs, the dangerous stuff, but they're just dumb, they're not gonna do nothing. Yeah, right, we can't trust you. What's the name of that, the Dynamics?
Boston
Dynamics. Y'all doing backflips. Come on, man. You ain't gonna put that technology in them robots?
The dog.
Yeah.
Man.
And they had the dog with New York, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people got mad talking about you just spending our taxpayer money on this. You ain't gonna have no choice pretty soon.
Yep.
They already have robots in these other countries patrolling the streets.
Shit, bro.
And that's the pride of this man. Okay? How he's keeping humans, I'll say, out of jobs. You Jake's particularly out of jobs while he's giving it to robotics because he feels he can do whatever the hell he wants.
Gang.
And if you don't have a job or he don't have a use for you, what it said, is it Sirach, like 14 or 13 something?
Oh yeah, he would use the.
He will use these till he have no need of it.
Yeah, kind, cause hey, robots are now stocking shelves in Walmart. Hey, when you go into these different hotels, they bring your room service food to you, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Give you a key.
Yeah.
You know, these warehouses, they have them over in China, I know, where they have the warehouses that stack the shelves and then go get the products. You know, so it's only a matter. Amazon gonna do that.
Carvana is a damn vending machine. Cars. It's a robot, you know.
You go into a bank, they got maybe one or two tellers. So you can do everything. You can do everything to the ATM now. Deposit and all this.
Back in Psalms 137 and verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee, as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
Yeah, that's what King David was talking about. Okay, that's what he was talking about. You know, we're gonna do unto you what you've done unto us. That's what, hey, Nat Turner got inspired by that. And that shit, if you read up on what he did, what they was doing, they was standing over the baby cribs.
Yeah, kind.
With axes.
They showed it in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Birth of the Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shit, it was
They stood over the bed of their slave master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind.
Left a bloody mess.
Yeah. Babies with the alligator. Yeah, I seen a video of old Jake telling the story where it wasn't like the baby was just around there crying. The baby was crying.
Yeah.
And then the alligator would grab down on them, and then they would come hit the alligator on the head or shoot it or whatever. And that happened all the time.
Yeah, they used the baby as like a bait, like a trap. Because the baby, like you said, the baby would be crying, so it would attract the attention of the alligator, and then that just let the baby get eaten.
That was the curse that said we would have no might and no longing for our children.
Yeah. Oh,
then you shall rule over.
They would make souvenirs like leather jackets, leather chairs out of Jake's skin.
We just saw them, I think on the chapter so they found on TikTok, something I was watching. The guy just found a chair full of human hair.
Yeah.
It was nappy hair, like Jake's hair, really. You know, it's like, hey, I'm trying to refurbish this chair to the old chair, and I look what I find on the inside. So you know how many hairs it took to make this chair?
Yeah, that's the type of shit Esau was doing to us.
Hey.
And even with Gad.
Bro.
The football team, the Redskins.
Yep.
That goes back to the scalping of the natives.
Yep.
They put bounties on the scalps.
Yep.
Those were like basically bounties, man.
Kind of like how Eve does with like like with animals.
Yeah.
Like taxidermy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They was doing that to Gad, man.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right here.
Right there.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, there it is.
That's where they get the concept of redskin from.
Is that hairbrush? Yeah. Right here, see Dr. Scott's?
Yep.
I see an Indian scalp for his enemies, but it will preserve yours from dandruff baldness, falling hair, cures headache,
Headaches.
neurology, and priceless $1.
Yeah, let's understand that the original
Look at this.
wigs were someone else's hair.
It says, an Indian hunt. I'll just read the highlighted part. The reward of $250 for Indian scalps made by several counties in Arizona have started out to hunt for redskins with a view of obtaining their scalps. $250 is merely incidental to the hunt. It pays for whiskey and tobacco. It says the counties will adopt this plan to exterminating the savages.
They was calling the savages.
And they wrote,
it was the savages that was doing that to them.
yeah. And they wrote that in the goddamn newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember this? Esau sending other Edomites letters all across the country, Caribbean, like the Willie Lynch.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you were able to keep a slave. You know, we sending letters all over the states, all over the Caribbean. You know how to basically tame your slaves, get them to be productive for you. And then they also, what they never post on the internet, they never post how you get rid of the slave once they've done the job. That's what we're into now. That's why we said after 1865, it got worse. Because now they have to exterminate us, because now we can multiply all the rigorous works that we have to do, labors that we did, and now they can finally use the gun store, liquor store, and churches on these corners to get us to exterminate us off the land now. They're doing it, it's called, the name, the word of it is called gentrification. Then you gotta live somewhere to work for their shit, but then they want that land back. You know?
Yeah.
So they gotta kill you off of it.
This is just what we know of. You know, we know about the smallpox, the blankets, and this is just one tribe, or two tribes, the Seminole Indians and the Native American Indians.
Gad and Reuben.
Gad and Reuben. So not to mention all the wicked shit that they've done, you know, turning the Northern Kingdom or the Gad and Reuben against Judah. They would have actual Native Americans go hunt us, you know?
Help them
track us.
through the woods and whatever, the runaway slaves could hide.
And know what these devils would do? They would live in a certain area and then put Gadite cities around it. So if when the enemy came in, they would run to them first. You know, this devil is
and that's where they get the word basically they, a runaway slave.
Yeah.
Because you know when they would lose a runaway slave, they would basically say that we got an animal on the loose. So they called him a maroon. But they was expecting that a lot of natives would start capturing them and returning them back to Esau. But a lot of the natives was like, we're not going to do that. And that, Esau couldn't trust that. So he was like, and this is why he started classifying both natives and Jake as blacks. The Gad, like the natives and Jake, they were both being classified as blacks. You know?
It kind. And another thing as well, man, when we're talking about the history
They
and
actually categorized both as Negro.
Yeah.
That's what it was, Negro.
It was Negro.
Both classified as
Kind.
Negro.
You know?
when they wrote that law in 1682 about where white people came. They said when they were talking about Negroes, they were talking about Native Americans and Judites. You know, when they wrote that in the legislation.
Kind.
When they came up with white people, because basically during those times they had to make a divide because you got a lot of Jakes, a lot of Edomites marrying Jake slaves and marrying Native Americans. So Esau wanted to put a stop to that. And also there was a labor revolt, which came to the classification of people where Esau tried to bridge the poor Edomites with the rich Edomites to make them think they're on the same level, the same people. So we're all white, and the Native Americans, the the blacks, or not the blacks, the Judites, they're all black. So there came that it's not a split, but you know where. Yeah.
This is from Black Indians, A Hidden Heritage by William Lauren Katz. This is page 120, going into 121. It says British authorities repeatedly tried to convince Native Americans to return the slave fugitives they harbored in their villages, but they were collided with an Indian adoption system that welcomed new members and offered them full protection. When whites argued about the right of private property in owning people and insisted Africans were inferior beings, the Indians shrugged no. In treaty after treaty, Southern colonists made Native nations promise to return fugitive slaves. In 1721, the five nations solemnly promised a governor of Virginia to deliver slaves, but nothing happened. The British complained bitterly on behalf of their slave owners, and chiefs apologized, and the ex-slaves became part of Native American life. So this is why you got a lot of Jake saying that, oh, I'm Native American. You know, a lot of Judah and Gad and Reuben pretty much mixed in together.
Yeah.
It says, when angry slave hunters decided to take matters into their own hands, they met fierce opposition. In 1750, Captain Tobias Fitch sent off a posse of 5 to retrieve a slave living in the Creek Nation. A Creek chief stood between them and the black man and cut their rope and threw it in a fire. And he warned them his villages had as many guns as they did.
Yep.
The posse returned empty-handed and happy to be alive. It says Africans, which, you know, Jake, members of the Indian nation, often played a vital part in armed resistance to whites. In 1727, Jake and Gad, or you know, the Indians, besieged Virginia frontier settlements during the French and Indian War, and British officer warning about the two races and said their mixing is to be prevented as much as possible. Yeah. It says in the New England and Middle colonies, African slaves were less numerous and therefore considered less dangerous.
You said, go back up.
Their mixing is to be prevented as much as possible.
That's Sun Tzu, Art of War. Divide and conquer. It was like one of the top laws of war.
But look at us now. Esau divide and conquer the so-called Negroes and the Latinos. We live in the same neighborhoods, but they're telling you that, you know, we're not the same people. That, you know, they're keeping their gang shit going. You know, so, and Esau's behind the scenes pulling all the strings with that. If we knew that we were the same people living in the same, we would all come together and realize, yo, we got a common enemy, not each other.
Let me expound on what you're talking about. When you look at it, he doesn't just divide by color, he divides by shade of color. He divides by race. He divides by economic status. Class status. He divides it to where everybody's a minority but him. You know? To where you feel inferior because your numbers are small. Okay, well that's funny because the spirit of what the Heavenly Father's doing. He takes the underdog, the smaller numbers, and defeats the many, and we're supposed to acknowledge that it's him doing it by his power, not by the power of man on earth, numbers or whatever, in arms or whatever. You got it, bro.
It says, in the New England and Middle colonies, African slaves were less numerous and therefore considered less dangerous, but in their actions and laws, whites in these colonies showed a fear that people of color would unite against them. They still feel that way to this very day.
Somebody get that Exodus 1. Said, lest when Pharaoh that knew not Joseph, you know, feared, you know what happened. It's the same regurgitated idea, the same natural fear that they had of Satan. It's like 8, I don't know, I'm sorry, is it around where it's at?
I started at 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly.